National Security Advisor John Bolton speaking to Israeli leaders over the weekend, and he appears to really contradict something that the president says. He says that, not to worry, that U.S. troops will not be pulled out of Syria until after ISIS is defeated. And we know what the president said was, A, he wanted to do it in 30 days because ISIS has already been defeated, right? And I know he sort of massaged that statement a little bit later on, but we've kind of seen this movie before, Major, where the president says something or tweets out something and then members of his cabinet are sort of dispatched to clarify, if not directly contradict what he said. Who are we to believe here?
I'm not sure. It's just fast-moving or actually slow-moving confusion. The president said everyone's coming out. Orders were given to expedite the removal of the 2,000 U.S. Special Forces and others in Syria. Then everyone started to say, wait a minute, what will happen to those who the U.S. and its coalition partners fought alongside against ISIS, meaning the Turks, meaning the Kurds in Syria that the Turks regard as not parts of the coalition against ISIS, but potential terrorists against the interests of Turkey. And President Erdogan has said that publicly. The Turks want to get rid of and drive out of any territory near the Syria-Turkish border these Kurds that have been fighting alongside the U.S.-led coalition. And it did not come as a surprise, but John Bolton, the National Security Advisor, is acting as if it came as a surprise, that even the mere announcement of moving U.S. military personnel out and taking them away from their collaborative role with those Kurdish forces would expose them to great risk at the hands of the Turks. Now the administration is saying, well, we're not going to leave until we're certain that ISIS is defeated and the Kurds are not harmed. Well, that's the policy that existed before the president's announcement, snap announcement that he was withdrawing everybody from Syria, which he referred to last week as a place of nothing more than sand and death. So the president makes a lot of statements, pronouncements, gives orders, and then the real-life consequences begin to emerge, even though all of those real-life consequences had been discussed, were discussed, and deliberated upon before the president makes his snap decision. That's happened before, as you said, Anne-Marie. It's happening now, and in a region where when you make snap decisions and then you dial them back, you create confusion, and oftentimes confusion in the Middle East can lead to uncertain and sometimes dangerous results. Indeed,
and perhaps a little confusion within your cabinet, because after all, Mattis left over this decision, which we all sort of thought was firm. Clearly he thought was, I presume, thought was firm too, and now it seems to be
as
mutating.
You pointed out, Major, and as Anne-Marie says, I mean, Secretary Mattis resigned over this, but it sounds to me what John Bolton is doing is what other members of the administration, as you point out, have always done. In other words,
we've seen the Secretary of State do it in North Korea.
Mattis could have probably said, you know what, yes, Mr. President, we're going to do it based on what you've pronounced on Twitter or whatever, but done what Bolton is doing now. I think maybe, I don't know the reporting on this, Major, but maybe he just had enough of doing that, what Anne-Marie pointed out, that they've done in the past.
Well, and when we were in Iraq, I was traveling with the president. I asked him about taking U.S. forces out of Syria, and did that in any way increase jeopardy for Israel by increasing the ability of the Syrians and others like the Iranians or the Russians to end the civil war on their terms and perhaps feel stronger or place in jeopardy Israel, the neighbor to the west of Syria. And the president said no. I've talked to Bibi Netanyahu, the Israeli prime minister. We're all fine. The fact that John Bolton made this announcement standing next to the Israeli prime minister suggests to me there were other conversations, and there have been other conversations with U.S. allies in the region, Israel chief among them, about the implications of this. And to make that announcement standing next to the Israeli prime minister is very strong evidence to me that the Israelis said you need to reassess this for lots of reasons. And you better start that reassessment not only soon, but make your reassessment known publicly.
All right. Major Garrett, thank you.
Thank you.